And taking a look at their last year's schedule, they went 13-4 last year. And when I look at, but here's the kicker: most of the Vikings' wins were decided. Most of their wins were decided by one score or less. The only game that was not decided by one score in a victory was their game against Chicago in the last game of the season. And when they lose, they lost by all their losses outside of the postseason loss were by more than one score. So when they won barely, and when they lost big. And like I mentioned in the postseason, they did lose to the New York Giants in a wild card round when Kirk Cousins threw a tight end check down on a 4th and 8. Yeah, that's one of those typical Viking ways to end their season. But let's take a look at the highlights, and the biggest highlight for them this year was Justin Jefferson, period. This guy was dominant when he was on the field. He won the NFL Offensive Player of the Year, and he caught this ridiculous catch to help save the Vikings and help them get a stunning win at Buffalo. And to the surprise of me, the Vikings have not figured out how to give Justin Jefferson his much overdue extension because he's going to break the bank. Vikings going to have to pay up for him. I think that's why they had to get rid of Adam Thielen because of it. Then there was the comeback against the Colts, where they were down 33 to nothing in the first half. But in the second half, the Colts were pretty much Matt Ryan, and the Vikings came all the way back to win that game. And now for the lowlights. Getting destroyed by Dallas when they lost 40 to 3 at home. I don't even know what happened to the Vikings in that game. But I think something lit a fire in Dallas and they just destroyed them. I could highlight it was the defense's fault, but offense didn't even score points either. And losing in the wild card to the Giants. And as I mentioned, the 4th and 8 check down was what ended their season. And now has many people asking questions about Kirk Cousins' future. They pretty much realizing that his time in Minnesota is running thin. And I think after watching that game, I actually think so too. Now on to some acquisitions, and they pretty much emphasized the defense, adding Marcus Davenport from the Saints. The Saints really gave up a first round pick for that guy. Byron Murphy from the Cardinals, and Dean Lowry. But they lost quite a bit this year, most of it to the cap, like Adam Thielen was released. Irv Smith was underperforming, so they let him walk in free agency. Dalvin Tomlinson, I think he was cut as well, as was Eric Kendricks. And Patrick Peterson was a free agency who signed with the Pittsburgh Steelers. At the draft, they decided to focus on getting a replacement for Adam Thielen, and they added Jordan Addison, a wide receiver from USC. Because I think at that point, wide receivers are going off the board very fast. But other than that, they added some defensive depth. And then they also drafted a quarterback, Jaron Hall from BYU, as maybe he could be a possibility to succeed Kirk Cousins. You never know. But he's a 5th round pick, so the chances of that are very slim. So, will the Vikings improve? Well, Vikings will, or let alone Vikings, continue to be contenders, or will they fall on their face? Let's take a look at their schedule. Okay, Minnesota, let's take a look at your schedule. And you're going to start your season off with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Luckily for you, this game is at home. And Tampa, they do not have Tom Brady anymore. So with that being said, I'm gonna give you a win here. Then on a short week, you have a Thursday night game with the Eagles, the defending NFC champions. And if you know anything, Kirk Cousins and Primetime's games do not mix. This one will easily go to Philadelphia. Then week 3 against the Chargers, I'm going to give them a win at home. Week 4 against the Panthers, I think they lose. I think they get stunned by the Carolina Panthers week 4. Chiefs coming over to Minnesota week 5. Now I do think Minnesota has a chance because if you don't know, Mahomes struggles in dome games. But in this particular matchup, I think the Chiefs will make enough plays to win. Against the Bears, I got them losing to the Chicago on the road. Against the 49ers, how about another loss? I think the Niners will come in because I'm pretty high on San Francisco this year. They're, I think that team will be on a mission, regardless of what quarterback they have. They're going to lose to Green Bay as well. But against the Atlanta Falcons, I think their losing streak will come to an end against the Atlanta Falcons, giving them a win here. Then they have the New Orleans Saints against the Minnesota Vikings. I feel like these two teams play a lot in these past years. But I'm going to give Minnesota the win because they always tend to come out on top. And then I have them avenging. Now, like I said with Kirk Cousins in primetime games, he normally don't win those. But unless he's playing Chicago, he'll likely win that one. I know, yeah, week 11, I got them losing to the Broncos on Sunday night. Another Kirk Cousins primetime game. Week 13, how about a road win against the Raiders? Then they got Cincinnati, which I have them losing. I got them getting a win over Detroit at home, losing to Green Bay when they come to town, and I got them losing to the Lions the second go round, which will give them a 7-10 record, which will not be enough for them to make the playoffs. I think the Vikings last year got pretty lucky with their games. I think their luck will run out. So let me know in the comments below what record you think the Minnesota Vikings are going to have. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.